Hello and welcome back to day 4 of our fall road trip. This is our last full day in New York and our last day with our Go City Pass. After a slightly steadier day yesterday, only 20,000 steps instead of 30,000 the day before, we plan to be back on it today. However, there were huge uncertainties about the weather, and when we pulled open the curtains things were still looking pretty grim. But we had a plan: visit an indoor attraction early, then get drunk, and hope things subsequently clear up for the remainder of the day. We have big plans today and intend to really rack up the attractions on the Go City Pass. Here is our running total from the last 2 days, and we start things off with the new Times Square attraction, Rise New York. This is the New York version of the popular flying simulators that have popped up all over the country. Based on the awesome Soarin' at Disneyland, these flying rides take visitors on a virtual flight over various locations. Naturally, Rise New York takes you on a flight over the city of Manhattan. We have ridden these simulators at Disneyland, San Francisco, Vegas, and now in New York. They are usually a lot of fun, and we were interested to see how the New York version would stack up. The ride is accompanied by a New York themed exhibition with various sets and dioramas showcasing the highlights of the city's heritage and culture. This was pretty fun and some really interesting sets. The ride itself was a pretty impressive implementation. The screen was huge and the ride vehicles really immersed deeply into the dome. The vehicle movements were pretty limited, however, and the drops and virtual motion were pretty weak. The ride seemed to rely on shaking to simulate excitement, whereas the real Soarin' can simulate pretty extreme drops. There was also a permanently visible edge to the top of the dome that broke the illusion quite a bit. The film, however, was really good and took you on a great virtual flight over the city, taking in most of the highlights and culminating in New Year's Eve on Times Square. Overall, it was a really fun way to spend an hour while the rain lashed down. It felt like great value on the pass, but we questioned the standard entry price of $42 if you were buying separately. Ouch! After this, it was time for breakfast, or more accurately brunch, and as it was weekend we hunted out one of New York's best boozy brunches. New York is not really known for its Mexican cuisine, but it is well known for its cultural melting pot and anything goes in the city. The all-inclusive boozy brunch at the upscale Upper East Side Maya restaurant offered not only unlimited margs, mimosas, sangria and Bloody Marys, but also unlimited food items from an extensive menu. The food was amazing, with really good authentic Mexican flavours, although we could have used a little more heat. Everything was really good though. We worked our way through most of the menu, with each dish being a pretty small tasting size portion, meaning we got 10 to 12 dishes before we were full up. We had tuna ceviche, enchiladas, quesadillas, spicy said salmon, fajitas and of course tacos. For dessert we had mini waffles and churros with a to die for caramel sauce. We had at least 5 rounds of drinks, maybe 6, before we started to slow down as we still had a lot to get done today. But we could have had more. The service was fast, friendly, and while we were limited to 90 minutes, we were ready to get the check before then. For $59 per person, it is great value really. It's $49 with no drinks, which is still good, but for $10 extra, you get unlimited drinks, which is amazing. It was a great meal and we highly recommend you check it out. We have a list of our best boozy brunches in the city in the description below. By the time we left, the clouds had miraculously parted, the rain had dried up, and blue skies once again prevailed. It's amazing what a splash of Mexicana can do. So we headed south to maximise on the afternoon's good weather, heading first to the 9/11 Memorial. We simply can't visit New York City without heading here and paying our respects. We have visited the incredible museum several times, so this was not on the list for today. Instead, we've just visited the Memorial Waterfalls, then headed to the Freedom Tower to get one last elevated view of the city in the daylight. The Freedom Tower's observation deck does not do too well on our list of top observation decks, but we always feel we are treating it pretty harshly as it's a great deck overall. It's just the reflections from the windows really bothers us.
Welcome to One World Observatory.
The view is also an odd one. Being so high and so remote, the view feels a little disconnected. From the Empire State, the top of the rock and the summit, you feel so immersed in the heart of the city. From the One World Observatory, you feel a little removed from it. It's a great view, it just lacks the focal points the others contain. However, the Sea Forever Theatre is one of the best elements of any observation deck in the city. The deck offers a full 360-degree view of the city, and as you wander around, the views are pretty staggering. To the north is Midtown, to the west offers views of New Jersey and the Hudson River, the south gives you the bottom end of Manhattan, the Statue of Liberty, and out over the Bay of New York. Finally, out over the east gives you amazing views of Brooklyn, Brooklyn Bridge, and the other bridges up along the East River. It covers the whole area from a staggering height, but it's just being indoors gives a slightly removed sensation, like you were looking at New York rather than being in New York. However, this indoor nature is often easier to handle for those more sensitive to heights. We spent a good while at the top before heading down. To carry on our day. After we headed down, it was back into the subway and across the river to Dumbo, one of our favourite locations in the city. The views from this little stretch of river are quite unlike anywhere else in the world. This is the view that pretty much started our obsession with America all those years ago, and it still to this day blows us away. From the iconic framing of the Empire State Building by the Manhattan Bridge, the wonderful Pebble Beach views of Brooklyn Bridge and the Freedom Tower, to the just mind-blowing skyline shots from Brooklyn Bridge Park. It's just breathtaking. What is even more breathtaking was our discovery of pumpkin spiced eggnog in a little supermarket in Dumbo. Mind blown. From Dumbo we needed to get back onto the island, and there is simply no better way than walking over the Brooklyn Bridge. This is right up there with one of our favourite things to do in New York. The view from the bridge is nothing short of staggering, and the very concept of hiking one of the most iconic bridges in the world is pretty special. It was crazy busy on the bridge, and we're glad to see that bikes have been moved off the walkway, as this used to be quite dangerous for all. And with the footfall we experienced today, it would be totally impractical. The weather was bright and clear, and while there was just a little bit of chill in the air, it was still unseasonably warm, making the walk across the bridge really enjoyable. We were just a little early for sunset, but the light was still pretty wonderful. We picked up a few souvenirs on the way, as the Brooklyn Bridge is one of the cheapest places to buy your little knickknacks to take home anywhere in the city. We always like to walk it from Brooklyn to Manhattan, as you get the better views as you walk across the bridge. Once back in Manhattan, we jumped on the tube and headed back to the hotel for a bit of a relax before our next attraction, the ride. The ride is a bit of a strange attraction, and it's hard to work out exactly what it's really about without experiencing it. It's been through a turbulent time recently. COVID caused the ride to close for 18 plus months, and then the company went into liquidation, probably caused by the COVID hangover and crippling debt. But the show has risen from the ashes and is running once more, so we headed along to see if it's still got its sparkle. While it is incredibly touristy and really a bit corny and naff, it's still a lot of fun. For those that don't know, it's a short bus tour around the highlights of Midtown Manhattan, but the tour is like no other. First off is the stadium seating and floor-to-ceiling windows and panoramic roof. It's quite the setup. Second is the all-singing, all-dancing tour guides who talk, joke and sing you all the way through the tour. Finally, there is the impromptu outdoor entertainment. These are a series of street performances that take place right on the busy sidewalks of New York City. There are rappers, breakdancers, dancing sweeps, singers and more. It's so much fun and it all takes place right under the nose of some pretty confused passers-by. Overall, it's just a really fun, light-hearted experience and well worth trying out, especially if you're using a pass like us. On this edition of the ride, we felt it was a little lacking compared to other editions of the ride we have done. The hosts were a little less sparkling and the traffic was so bad we spent a lot of time stationary with our tour guides padding. It missed a few of the sights out too, possibly due to the traffic nightmares, but it was still really good and we only picked up on these flaws as we were return customers.
Building the main branch of the New York City Public Library. This library of the New York
Call
City...
it Manhattan's front lawn. Lots of free activities happen here year-round. They're actually turning it into Bank of America's Winter Village right now. This is something that
My
happens.
Australian friends. What are you running from? How are you able to run that fast?
Walking through people, coming off the top like Steeple, shout out to Don Cheadle. Yeah, a little bit of in and out, catch it on video, you know what I'm about, put it on the Instagram and the TikTok. When I say good, then you say bye, good, bye, good, bye, peace.
Wow.
Wow.
You guys. Yes, it's a food court called Adele's Famous Halal, and it was in competition.
Subject, food cart. Number of food carts in New York City, over 3,000. Cost to run.
Wow.
What are you doing out there?
I'm just out here busking, you know, trying to make a buck with the food.
Busking. Is that what...
I've been chilling with this guy. He hasn't moved in like 30 hours.
Right.
Wow.
But he might move soon.
That's
I'm not
concerning.
sure.
That's
Yeah.
oh, geez.
He moved.
Oh my goodness. I think you spoke it into existence.
Hi.
Wow, hey.
Most days.
Wow. Well, you know what? You're in luck because we do a great practice countdown here on
We
the bus.
do, yeah.
Really?
4, 3, 2, 1. Happy New Year! And you, and you, and even you.
The final attraction we planned on doing was the top of the rock. However, we didn't get a and an updated tally as, if you saw our day one vlog, we have already redeemed the pass for the top of the rock and already added it to the total. So the ride was our final attraction and leaves our total at $490 and a saving of $241. We'll take a deeper look at this later. We had rearranged our time ticket to be at 9 PM, which gave us time to grab something to eat and watch the ice skating at the Rockefeller Center, which had just opened this evening. For food, we headed to the legendary Halal Guys for some shawarma. The queue was only around 10 to 15 minutes and we feasted on beef and chicken shawarma with salad and rice and a wrap. This was served with a pretty potent red sauce that more than made up for the lack of spice at the Mexican restaurant earlier. This is still one of the best food carts in New York. After this, we headed to the Rockefeller Center to head to the top of the rock. The rock is undergoing a pretty intense makeover and we will need to head back to see the new attraction once it's finished, but the star of the show remains unaffected. The deck is one of our favourites in New York for the simple reason the view is unbeatable. Unlike other decks, the top terrace here offers unobstructed views of the city. No fence, no glass, just air. With its central location and unimpeded views of the Empire State, the deck far surpasses any other elevated view in the city. The summit may have a bit more razzle-dazzle and gimmicky features, but we don't visit observation decks for fancy mirrors and silver beach balls. It's all about the view, and the top of the rock has them in spades. It's a bit of a shame that the towering construction on Billionaire's Row has blocked out the park views, but it still offers the best view in the city. And the total lack of reflective glass and ugly wire fences make these views uncomparable. After taking in the breathtaking views for a while, we headed back down and then back to the hotel after another huge day. 30,000 steps and our feet were killing us, so it was back to the hotel to recover and get ready for the next leg of our road trip, which would be by rail. Okay, last order of business, summing up the pass. We always use a pass when visiting most cities in the US, as we just feel we get far more from the city when all the attractions are pre-covered. When we know we have already paid and we just need to rack up the sites and attractions, we just do so much more. When every attraction has its own price tag, it really makes you question if you want to do it, rather than just getting on and getting it done. For example, Rise New York is pretty terrible value at $42 per person, but with the pass, you just don't worry about it. Observation decks are really pricey and we think you need to do at least 2 in order to get both day and night views. And that is expensive, but with the pass, it's all in. It gives you the freedom to do so much more. In the end, we used over $490 worth of attractions each. That's nearly $1,000 for the pair of us, or over $2,000 if you're a family of 4. By using a pass, we saved over $240 per person. That's a couple of really good meals, or one extremely good meal, or half a meal per se, or 240 slices of 99-cent pizza. Except when we bought our pass, we used one of our promo codes that you can find below. This dropped the price to $224 each and boosted the savings up to $266. So make sure if you're considering buying a pass, you check out our discount codes below. Overall, the pass was great. It allowed us to see and do way more than we would have otherwise. In reality, the weather really curtailed some of our plans, and it was great to have the flexibility to just alter our plans on the fly based on the weather situation. The pass was a little awkward at the top of the rock, but we would have had the same issue without using the pass. Even if we had booked online, we would not have known when we wanted to go up until we got to New York, as the forecasts were very changeable. The pass gave us a lot of extra flexibility, so we could fit in all the attractions as we wanted. It's also fairly obvious we did not only do things that were on the pass. During our visit, we saw a huge amount of the city and spent a good amount of time dining and relaxing. The first day was pretty mental due to the short weather window, but after that we got to take our time. We had an absolute blast in the city and would highly recommend you using a pass if you are coming to New York. We have a full comprehensive breakdown of all the different passes available in our comparison article below. You can find this in the description. And that's almost it for New York. Our next vlog will be coming shortly, and that is all about our transition day as we switch cities, New York for Boston. This is where we start our fall road trip in earnest. Like and subscribe to make sure you don't miss out on that. And thanks for watching.